And welcome to today's Lunch and Learn with me, Julie Cameron, a business growth specialist with ActionCOACH Solihull. And today I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Tina Steele from Steele Aspire Financial Management. We are going to ask why you've got that name shortly. With us, who is going to talk about all about aspects of financial planning, all aspects of her business journey, and we will be here for 6 hours now. I'm only messing. So it's lovely to have you with us today, Tina. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolute pleasure. So for those that are listening to us out on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, on our YouTube channel, please drop a note in the chat box. Tell us where you're listening to us from this afternoon. Tell us if you're having your lunch. Tell us, are you going to watch the World Cup? We were talking about that, weren't we, Gina? Mm-hmm. Whether it's raining where you are, because it is here, just let us know where you are and what you're doing out there. Also, if you've got any questions for Tina at all throughout this, we can monitor them, and it'd be great to have those questions, however difficult. Coming in. Yeah, Tina's now going, it was lovely having you. I'm going now. So, Tina, as I always start our Lunch and Learns when we talk about business journey, tell me where it all started. Tell me what got you into financial management. The floor is yours. Tell us your business journey so far.
I would say business journey. It's kind of life journey. I'm not going to go through my whole life, but I am going to mention just a little bit. When I was small, my mindset's always been around financy things. So when I was a little girl, I used to play money for my toys, and they used to have budgets, and they used to go shopping, and they used to have to buy things. And I used to love watching the people in the post office serving people and stamping books. And so kind of my love of all things organisation and finance started at a very, very young age. Combined with a flip side, I would say for most people, for the logic finance side, is I was a dancer as well. So very creative and loved, doing all the shows and performing. So two very different sides. So kind of cutting a long story short, when I decided to go to university, my two university choices were accountancy or dancing. So actually I got all the way to 18, and I still hadn't decided which route I was going to go down. So I decided to do what I thought was the sensible route and do accountancy degree. And I kind of said to myself, if I didn't have a decent career within 2 years, I would set up a dance school. So that was where my head was at. Yeah. And my career took off. It was amazing after university. During university, they do the milk rounds, as they call them, when you go into different accountancy firms, and I couldn't work in an accountancy practice, I don't think. And I looked at a few, and they were very quiet. As you can probably tell from this, I like to talk. And I like to help people, and I want to make a difference. And although, people doing their books is a very useful thing, and we all need it done, it didn't feel like it was my expertise in my area that I should go into. So I had some Saturday jobs along the way where I worked in retail and customer service. I love doing that. I love helping people. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go into retail management after I'd finished my degree, because I want to help. Yeah. And I got an assistant manager job, and they talked to me like I was a little girl when I was working there, and I wanted to help organize things, help the processes, and it just didn't fit. So I kind of went back into the finance field, but from the bottom. So I started working for 7Cs, who make the cod liver oil tablets, and doing a maternity cover in the accounts payable. So very finance, but at the bottom level. And the lady came back part-time afterwards, and I went for the job as manager, and I ended up being her boss at 21, which was incredible, and kind of grew from there. So I started doing my professional accounts exams, and then because you have to tick off a technical log as well as doing your exams, I couldn't do everything in that role. So I moved on and worked for Smith & Nephew, which make the endoscopy cameras and all those kind of things, and did a financial accounts role there. Did similar thing. Great work. I condensed pretty much a full-time job down to 3 days in any role that I've done. And
The joys of the internet. We've lost Tina, bless her. Let's just see if she comes back. I'm blaming the weather this morning or this lunchtime. Yep, unfortunately she's dropped off. She will be back, I am sure, in a moment. Fascinating story so far, and I'm sure we'll all listen to it a little bit more in a second. Amazing how one decision can kind of change your life, I suppose. Dance and accountancy, very different, very, very different kind of professions, and it makes me wonder how you can choose between the two. We'll see when she comes back, whether she's actually regretted or wishes that she'd done the dance rather than finance, and I'm sure she'll be back in a second. But like I say, if you are listening out there, please do let us know if you've got any questions for Tina, and as soon as she rejoins us, I am sure we'll be able to ask her those questions momentarily. So, financial planning, for those of you are listening in, what are your kind of challenges with it? Do you have a financial plan in place for later life? What's your process that you undertake when you think about financial planning? Is there a process or a procedure that you follow? Again, we can ask Tina these questions. But also on your business journey, what was the most challenges that you had out there? And what were the kind of the quick wins that you had? It sounds like Tina's career took off really, really quickly. So it'd be interesting if any of you have gone down that route and then are coming back. So just waiting for Tina to rejoin us. Hopefully she will be able to shortly. I do feel like at this moment we need hold music, but I won't sing to you all this lunchtime. But it is a case of thinking about our business journey and where we started off. I always ask the question to our guests on a morning, where did your interest and your passion come from? And I guess for all of us, what was our interest? What was our passion? Are we doing the role that we thought that we would do when we started off in our careers? Is it a case of, I remember many moons ago through school, people were, you're good at this, so let's go and explore a career into that avenue, rather than, thinking about actually what we want to achieve. So it's interesting, absolutely interesting about where we were, what we've achieved, and whether we are succeeding. So here comes Tina. No need to listen to me anymore waffling on. Hello, welcome back.
Sorry.
It's all right. These things happen. I was just telling everybody, I blame the weather. I blame that it's Monday. I blame everything. So I did feel like I needed hold music, but I wouldn't sing to anybody at this. No. I decided that I wouldn't. But I was just saying to our kind of our people listening out there, have we ever? And it's interesting that you said about the dancing versus like accounts, two extremes. Are we all doing what we set out to do, what we thought that we would start doing? I wanted to join the police force. I'm certainly not a policewoman. I did, but I've got a fear of dogs. And so I was a bit like, how can I join the police force? So if somebody came up with me with a dog and I'd just go, on you go, carry on. It's not really what it's meant to be. So I was just, filling time, Tina, but now you're back. Carry on, lovely, carry on. So you were at Smith & Nephew.
Yes. So financial accounts I was doing there, and took lots more things off. But I found that the men in the departments got the interest in projects, and I was so ambitious and just wanted to help and improve things, and kind of jumped up and down and volunteered for everything I could, but didn't get any more work, any interesting things to do. And it was very much a woman in a man's world. Being in finance, I think there was 2 women in the department, the rest were men. And as a team of about 30, 40 people. So kind of moving along on that, I didn't think I could get anywhere else working there. I went to work for British Aerospace, who make the Red Arrows Hawk jets, and didn't know anything about planes, but it was quite interesting working there. Learned lots of things. Did management accounts, so ticked off everything else on my technical log and became a qualified accountant. But same thing again. I didn't get any of the interesting projects, and I was more qualified than most of the people in department who were men. Bit of a pattern. And so, although that didn't really bother me, that, a director actually called me Blondie. Those things don't really bother me. It was the fact that I wasn't being valued for what I could do and what I could give to help. I was being stopped being able to help them, and that didn't sit very well with me. So I decided to take a bit of a move into education and went to work in a college, Hull College. And within a couple of years, I was the head of finance for Hull College Group. And we did mergers and due diligence. Completely different atmosphere. Really, really supportive. And I got to educate lots of the managers and budget holders on finance that have never had anything to do with finance before. And I fell in love with the education part. And I did some lecturing on night time as well as doing a full-time job, just because to see if I could. And I lectured just level 1 bookkeeping for people that are trying to start their own business, and kind of giving them that first step on the way. So there was a pattern over all of these. And then I went on to work in some universities and things as well. But the pattern of what I loved to do in all of these things was helping, making a difference, educating, and looking after my teams, the well-being of my teams, and seeing their confidence grow.
Yeah.
So got to a point when I was at the university where one of the universities was pulling out and I was taking redundancy. And I had 2 little ones at that point and thought, what do I want to do? And I thought I was going to go and be a consultant and sort of troubleshoot in different universities and colleges and go out and do the multi-skilling and upskilling, educating that I'd done in my roles. And I went to speak to a couple of financial advisors at the time about my personal circumstances and setting up a business, and they were very salesy. They were not that knowledgeable and spoke to me like I was a bit of a child and kind of told me what I needed. And it was a bit of a light bulb moment. I thought I could do this very differently. So off I went, lots more exams later, and now get to use all my wealth of finance knowledge, but to do the 3 elements of finance, I call it, which is my USP for the business, is financial well-being, education, and advice. And I think all 3 just go so nicely together.
Yeah, I was saying that it's a fascinating story. It really is. And do you think that the industry has changed? I mean, you've obviously made a couple of comments about the male-dominated kind of agency, kind of finance, industry. Do you think that that's slowly shifting towards more of an equilibrium, a balance between male and female, or do you think it's still very much male-dominated?
I think it is changing very slowly, I would say. From the people I still know working in the accountancy industry, there is more women now, but it's not equal by any means. And I think financial advisors, I think there's something in the UK, 11% are women.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that number. But yeah, I think it's around about that. So it's still very low. But it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think it is? Do you think it's the fact that women aren't attracted to the industry, or that we don't deem it flexible, or any of that aspect, that we're not competitive enough in certain respects to make a way in that industry?
It could be. I mean, from the universities I've done more recently and worked with, the students who are on accounting subjects, that is more maybe 40-60 actually. Wow. So I think the people coming into it now and the way the universities are advertising those courses are a lot more generic. It's open for everybody. And I think that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah,
and I think it maybe was that put people off. You go into a room and it's full of men. Do the women want to go in and talk about that? So do they feel confident enough? Whereas I think that's been broken down now, which is really good.
It just fascinates me, because although that we are striving for that equality, that there is still in certain industries, that kind of gap, and there's other industries that are very female dominated. And again, we could be having this conversation with a gentleman and kind of going, well, why is it? Because of the attraction? Is it because of so it's very interesting, always interests me. But setting up your own business, what were your first thoughts? Did you find it easy setting up your own business?
No, even though I know I can do all my finances, and that was a real help. I found I had too many ideas. So
Ah,
for me, I wanted to do everything at once, and
mhm.
it was kind of honing in on that 90-day plan, making sure I'd sectioned everything off, and that took me a good year or so to get into that flow of not running before I can walk. And discovering that social media is a whole new world to me, not something I'd really done before. I'd done bits, but makes a huge difference of getting your message out there and letting people know what you do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to a lady this morning about starting businesses, and I said, we often have an idea, a passion for a business idea, and we think, yeah, we can do this. I've got a product, or for yourself, I've got an aspiration to educate, and all of that. But actually, when it comes to the basics of setting up an actual business, can you remember the first thing that you actually did?
Oh, that's a great question. What did I do? It wasn't my branding and the name that came later. So I was just a trading name of my name at the first. So that came last year. It was. What did I do? I did do a business plan with my accountancy head on. It was my cash flow, I think, would have been my go-to, because that's what I'd done for years. So comfortable spot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's so much more, that you do. People some people like planning, like yourself. Other people don't. Other people go, well, I've got a product or I've got a service now. Where's the business? That kind of thing. We all sometimes we sit on our kind of laurels, I suppose, in certain respects. So the name, it didn't come at the beginning. How come?
Well,
Tell me more.
I did have it in my mind at the beginning, but
Mm.
because people didn't know me as an advisor, people either knew me in the business world or as an accountant. I just wanted to start with my name
Yeah.
because people knew me. So it was just Tina Steele Financial Management. That's what it was called to start with. But Steele Aspire was always in the back of my mind, because when I thought about setting up the business, it was aspire to ... was kind of my thoughts around it. And it's the aspire to have the future that you want, aspire to be educated, aspire to have better well-being, and all those things that can mean anything to anybody.
Yeah.
So kind of got the business going, got some clients on board, and then it felt right to rebrand and launch about a
So
year now.
obviously your three buckets to tell me them again.
Financial well-being, financial education, and financial advice.
Okay, so if I come to you as a new client, what do we start? How do we start? How do we, kind of get that from me?
Yeah, and I suppose the business is split because for clients, it's all those three in one. I think I do all of those for any client. There's no separate sections. So for an initial client, I would do a financial health check, I call them. I think it sounds a bit friendlier than a review. So kind of
Yes, it does. I thought that.
look at current circumstances, and then we draw their life on a page, which I love doing, and
Wow.
get to know their short, medium, and long-term goals, because everyone is so different, and what they need is completely different to what the next person will need. So
Mm-hmm.
people ask questions as in, how much do I need in a pension? How much do I need to save? And things like that. It absolutely depends on what you want in the future, and when you want it, and in what way you want it, and how many different diversified pots you've got for tax advantages and all those kind of things. So I do the gathering circumstances, do the life plan, and then all the bit around it is the education and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to talk jargon. It's a nice laid back, calm environment where people hopefully feel safe. The more they share, the better the advice can be. So I want them to feel like they can tell me anything, and they do. People share all sorts with me, and it's wonderful. It's such a privilege that people feel that they can trust me. So, and then hopefully talking about it. So many people at the end of that health check have gone, oh my gosh, it's like a weight's been lifted.
Yeah.
And it's just, we haven't done anything yet. All we've done is talked. And that's the well-being aspect, is getting it out there, knowing that you've got someone that can help you. And most people don't talk about their finances to anybody.
No. No, it's true actually. I think from a business coaching point of view, one of the first things that we do is, can we have a look at your accounts for the last X amount of years, etc., depending on how long they've been trading. But it gives us an overview of kind of what their business is like. But it's a really difficult thing for a lot of business owners, because it is the nitty gritty, isn't it? It's kind of the basics, and it shows how well or not so well that they're doing at that moment. In time, and it is very personal. So it is. I think what fascinates me is when you say about goals and about kind of what are people's goals, when do they want to retire. Now you could ask me that question, I'll go, I haven't a clue, I've never thought about it. But it's only when somebody actually asks you that you think, oh well, actually, when do I want to retire, and what do I want that to look like, and how big do I want that yacht on the south of France. But it's those questions. Do you find that people struggle with it at all?
It's a bit of a mix, really. Some do. And then actually, if you give them space, suddenly all these ideas come out that are in there somewhere, and they've thought about them, and they say they don't know, but actually they've probably got things they've always wanted to do. Or some people know exactly what they want to do, but also at least every year, I always meet with clients and we go back to that life plan, because quite often life changes, as we all know. And just because I always say when we're doing that health check, just because you're putting this down now doesn't mean it's set in stone, we can change it, but it just gives something to work on. And then when we do that review, we can make sure things are still on track to where they want to be at that point.
I was going to say, so the process is like a yearly thing, and is that something that if people want to review it quicker than that, then it can be, or if you're not wanting to review it for 5 years?
I always recommend at least a year, because things can change a lot in a year. If people want them more often, they can. And also if things come up in their lives during the year, they just reach out. And that's what I call them, my Steele Aspire family. I feel like they reach out because they want to tell me what's going on, because they're friends as well. But actually, because of their doing that, my advice can be better, and I can make sure I'm on top of everything.
And does this set you apart from other financial planners? Do you know what I mean?
I hope so.
Doing the same as you out there, Tina?
I don't think so. And I think with the background knowledge of being an accountant as well, the financial expertise is hopefully absolutely there. But I think the well-being aspect and making sure that the clients are truly looked after, I'm not always 100% sure is there with other people. And there's some feedback, and I've got some video testimonials. I've got a new website coming out in a couple of weeks. Oh my gosh, I was teary when I was listening to what clients have said about how they feel. And I've not seen that on anybody else's that I've looked at, that genuine heartfelt relationship that I've built with my clients.
It's awesome. I was one of the questions when I was talking, when you jumped off, was kind of like that thought process. Have you ever regretted not being that dancer?
A little bit. I danced up to being 18, 19, and then university I just didn't have time. And like I say, I did always want to go back to it. I've done bits, and I've just bought a new pair of tap shoes, and I'm going to do some adult tap classes, although I'm a little bit out of shape now. But so I am going to go back to it. Not professionally. I'm not going to be running the school, but I love it. It's again, for the mindset, that healthy mind. I can forget about all my finance things for a while and just have fun. I love it.
And is that something that you would say to your clients? What is it that makes you happy? What is it? Because in the nicest possible way, and please don't take this the wrong way, but nobody likes to sit down and talk finances, do they?
Not many, no.
Unless you're an accountant or within that industry.
A
lot of people find it scary.
They do.
Like we said, a lot of people find it I was going to say boring, because it's numbers. I personally like numbers, but that's just me. I'm a bit tricky. But people don't. It's not something that when you start your business or when you think, oh, I need a financial planner. It's one of the things that everyone goes, oh, I need an accountant.
Yes.
And a lot of accountants give advice in a certain way, but obviously they're not on the same stream as you.
Yes, Yeah, it is. And I don't think a lot of people, and this is where I go back to my education stream. I'm so passionate about this because when I meet people and they are scared of it, and you can see, they think of every excuse possible why they don't want to have,
why they don't want to talk to you.
but in a nice way. And I always say to people that people shouldn't be embarrassed that they're not educated about finance because it was never done in schools. You only learn what you learn along the way, bits from parents, bits from the news, media, friends. You kind of pick up what you can and do your best. But and that's where a lot of that fear and anxiety comes from, where I think a society believes we should know these things, but how should we and why should we? So it's getting across that line of it's safe to not know everything and ask questions.
I totally agree, and I think I think you hit the nail on the head. It comes from education, isn't it? So I've had this conversation with business owners before that nobody at school, when you're at school and you're coming through secondary school, and and people kind of go, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And people go, oh, I don't know. Oh, well, you're good at this. Let's go off that direction. You're not educated how to run your own business. You're not educating in personal finances, to be fair. You're not educated how to save, how to invest, how to read, how to read financial information. Who in the nicest possible way do we care that the pound is low? Do we care that the pound is that? What does that mean to me as an individual? Why are energy bills going up? Why is that happening? We don't know. And if it's not taught to us in a very simplistic way, in the nicest possible way that we can all understand, then how on earth can we plan for the future?
So true. It's so true. And people get in a real muddle and just because it's not their fault, really, and I am very passionate that it should be part of the education all the way along. And I would love to be everywhere and go in lots of schools and do that. And in the future, I hope to. But at the moment, that's my other side. When I talk about the wellbeing, is I offer free financial wellbeing for corporates, for employers, for their employees, and for charities. And a part of my corporate social responsibility and to give back and to try and educate. And I set it up and trying to teach people the basics, really. And, I did think I'm being a bit patronizing saying what is national insurance and what is a pension. And the feedback was incredible. So people, I said, never taught these things, don't know what they are. They've got deductions going out their wage slips. They don't know what they're paying for. They don't know what benefit is for the future. How can they plan for the future if they don't know what it means?
It's really fascinating because when I came out of university and started full-time employment, and you have to pay this, you have to pay, but you don't understand why, and you just see, like you say, just going out your salary and you're like, that's rubbish. It's rubbish. And I started working for a company and they took out pension contributions from me and didn't appreciate why, didn't appreciate what it meant. Nobody just kind of said, do you want it or don't you? Just kind of went. And when I left there, they asked me whether I wanted my money back. And so I just took it back because I was like, it's my money. But now, now you think, well, actually, if I'd left that there, what would that mean? But because nobody's educating you or telling you or explaining to you, and maybe that's ignorance on my part for not asking the question. But in my early 20s, I probably was just like, well, that's how many, nights out. That's a holiday, or that's you have different priorities, don't you, when you're younger to when you're older. So I kind of suppose it leads on to my next question. So if you were talking to somebody about financial planning, is there an opportune kind of time in your life that you start thinking about this? Should it be as early as possible?
I think so. As early as possible. There's no wrong time and there's never too late either. I think some people say it's too late for me. It's never too late to make a small difference. But I would say as early as possible, because then you can make those informed choices. So you can either choose to have more nights out, or you can choose to put some more in your pension. But if you don't know what that means and you don't know what difference it might make for your future, how can you make the choice?
Interesting you say that it's never too late.
Yes. I mean, quite a lot of people who have maybe had careers, have not done the savings, have not done pensions, and then have set up on their own businesses. There's quite a lot of those in the pandemic as well. And they say, oh, it's too late for me. And that's because, they're maybe in their 50s and they think they don't have enough time to save till retirement. But actually, when you kind of unpick that, and when is retirement? And generally, a lot of people are now doing a job that they love doing, so they're going back to something they love doing rather than the corporate world. And you ask them when they were going to retire, and they're like, "Oh, I wouldn't. I'd just work. I love it. This is, And actually, then when is your retirement, and when do you need that money? So is it too late to start something, or?" So there's lots of different, like I said, everyone's so unique that their financial plan's completely different to anyone else's.
Yeah. And I suppose when you think about it, we used to retire, was it 60, 65, that kind of thing. And, people aren't retiring that early anymore, are they?
No.
I was talking to a business owner the other day, and I said to him about when does he want to exit his business. And he was like, well, I don't. I was like, so you're going to be doing this business when you're 100? And he went, oh. And I said, when you're 110, when you're 90, and he was just like, oh, I hadn't actually, his kind of forward thinking was maybe the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And so it was only when you ask that question, like you say, when you're asking, having that conversation, having that planning, that people actually opens up their eyes to, no, I don't want to be doing this when I'm 100.
Yeah.
I want to be on that yacht in the South of France when I'm 100.
Exactly. But there's so many options of what that looks like, doesn't it? Is it a selling strategy? Is it someone else running it and having a wage and dividends, or is that going to part fund the pension? And again, it's going back to what is it looking like they will need, and what else will they have?
Yeah. So would you say that one of the first things, yes, get an accountant with a business owner, but then 2, speak to somebody about financial planning?
Yeah, I think the two work together as well. And because obviously past not working in practice, but knowing accountancy, and not stereotyping too many accountants, but they are very much more here's the historical facts, we're going to do the accounts. And I think that is changing now as well. And there is a lot more proactive accountants that are looking outside the box and doing things a little bit different. But obviously they can't advise on the pensions and things. So I work quite closely with a few of my clients' accountants, just because they don't necessarily always understand what the accountant's saying, and so I can talk the jargon and I can talk the non-jargon to my clients, so it's like the interpreter in between. But if there's a pension that needs setting up, my clients just talk to the accountant and get it done. So the two can work really nicely together.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can have those collaborations with an industry. In theory, you should work very well together, and it's probably a benefit to the accountant that they do speak to a financial planner, and so on and so forth. But I suppose when in a business mind, you'll kind of think, well, I've got an accountant, that's all I need. But it's not, it's opening it up. Obviously, there'd be a lot of people that are out there that are kind of thinking, ooh, it's scary, and what's the biggest fear that people have? Is it the unknown?
I think it is sometimes the fear of being judged, because they maybe haven't done the best over the years, but as I said, they haven't been educated, so they don't know what they should have done. But it's that fear of being judged for not doing the right thing, I think, is the biggest thing I come across with clients. And so it is making that a safe space to be honest, to talk through. There is no judgment, and no questions daft question. I always say that, if I try not to talk jargon, but if I say something people don't understand, that I have a client who, I think the other day we had a chat, and 3 times she said, I could say it again different way, say it again different way. And that's okay, I'll just keep going until it's understood, because I don't want clients just nodding at me and not understanding what I'm saying to them.
Yeah, and it's so true that I always say to obviously we're part of the same network, and I always say on my meetings, this is a safe space, no question is silly, no comments daft, we're here to support and empower each other. And that's what it is, to create that environment or that relationship with somebody that you actually have complete trust in, and that that if you go or pull that face going, I really have no idea what you're talking about, that actually they will kind of make it into, I always say, Julie language. I always say to my husband, I don't understand what on earth you're talking about, can you make it into my spiel? And he just looks at me and says about 3 words. I go, oh, I get it now.
It's so important though, isn't it? And that really puts people at ease, doesn't it?
It does.
And I think as well, coming away from the meeting and having that weight lifted, That's a really important thing. The meeting, I haven't done my job if that isn't kind of the reaction at the end of it. And same with your networking. I always come off with an absolute buzz and it's creating that positive, supportive situation, I suppose.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just laughing because my husband's actually listening and he's just put Julie speak exclamation mark. I'm not saying a word because he will be giggling and saying, yes, I do that quite often, and go, what do you mean by that? But again, it's having that trust, that relationship with that person that you can actually understand what they're talking about. So regarding setting up obviously there's a lot of compliance and stuff where financial planning is concerned. Is it a case of constantly learning, constantly complying, etc.?
Yes, I thought the world of accountancy had a lot of compliance. This is another level. But to be honest, I love that. And that is the great thing, all the admin, all the compliance, all the CPD. I'm used to doing that already from the accountancy, but I do love it. I love learning new things. So yeah, I'm a bit of a finance geek really in that way.
So if we've got anybody out there that's thinking, actually, financial planning's for me, I want a career in this, what would you say is your first steps? What would you advise them to do?
I would say explore what type of advisor you want to be.
There's more than one.
Well, some people specialize. So you can just do one element. So obviously there's mortgages and protection, there's specialists in pensions, so do you want to be an all-rounder? So I think it's important to know what you want to get out of financial advice, and then I would say look at where you fit. So obviously I'm part of St James's Place, and for me they're face-to-face advice. They've got a charitable foundation, they give back, that really fits with my values. So finding somewhere that's going to work for you is the next step.
Perfect. And I think that is it. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We always talk about vision, mission, and values where coaching is concerned, and have you got them? And you said it's got to fit with your values, and that's something that we always key to get out to businesses, about the people that you work with, about your suppliers. Have they got the same values as you? Because it is really important, isn't it?
Very much, yeah. I don't think you can be a genuine business and do the best for your clients if all those values aren't lined up behind.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I did a planning session with a group of businesses last week, and we were talking about vision, mission, and values. And I questioned and said, "What is your vision? What is your mission? What's your values?" And they all looked at me, and I was like, "Have you got it written down? Have you got it on, your screensaver? Do you live and breathe it every day? Because it should be something that you're living and breathing." And as a result, she popped a post on social media, sort of saying, does anybody else have vision, mission, and values? She said, she just thought that automatically, people have trust and honesty, integrity as values. And I was trying to explain that there's businesses out there that aren't values that they live and breathe by. And she was just blown away that the fact that people have different values to her. And I think it's so key, like you say, to work with a company or be under their umbrella that have the same values as you. It's very, very interesting. Rachel's listening. She says, "I have my vision on my screen." Oh. It makes me very happy. So I was going to say, the tips: find the company that you did, and then what? And then kind of what's the next process?
Again, I'm going to go back to what type of advisor. So for me, it kind of goes with my vision and mission as well, is I'd like to grow my business and bring on advisors. But for me, those advisors have to have the client at the heart first. So, obviously we all want to get paid for what we do and we all have to pay the bills, but that's a secondary for me. And if I'm doing the right thing, that'll come along. Yeah. So to grow my business, to find people that are highly educated, can do the lecturing and well-being, because that's a really important part of my business, and also have that compassion and that safe space and hopefully that calming influence, because it is hard to share about finances for some people. So make sure that that's there. So that would be a type of advisor, and this is what I'm saying to some type of advisors. And I know some advisors are very hard sales and it works for them. Yeah. They're very successful, but that's not what my business is about. No. So
So is that your next step for your business, to take on people, to employ, to educate? So look at that nodding head, you're excited.
Yeah, in the plan for next year. Yeah.
Wow. How many? Just one or more? Multiple?
I hope at least one next year, if not two. And then, see how it grows. I mean, my financial wellbeing, as I said, will launch in January next year. And then if that takes off, because obviously I'm doing it complimentary for businesses, then I want lots of other advisors to be able to do that advice service as well. That's
amazing. It's amazing, Tina. I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of talk, a lot of kind of chatter out there, obviously over the last couple of years, about mental health and mental well-being within the workplace. But actually, financial well-being and mental well-being work together, because if you're struggling financially, it does affect your mental health. So therefore, companies out there should be exploring the possibility of, like yourself, people coming into their businesses and actually talking to employees even about their finances, about how you can help. I think it's key. You're going to strive for that.
I hope so. And it's not just people who are struggling with their money. I have clients who come to me who have money and they have pensions and they're still worried. Yeah. So that meant that financial well-being, that mental well-being is at all levels, I think, and that comes back to the uncertainty about what they have and what they need, and it's about not knowing.
Yeah. So our top tip from today's session is get a financial planner.
Yes, absolutely. It's their values, and being comfortable with whoever you're talking to, I think is really, really key.
Yes. No, I agree wholeheartedly. It's like your accountant, it's like your business coach, it's like anybody that you're working with. You have to feel comfortable and secure within that relationship. And it is a relationship, a very good relationship. Perfect. Thank you for today, Tina. We've had Rachel on board, we've had Glenn, we've had Mark. They're all saying hello. We've got somebody listening to us in Scotland, so hello to them. It's amazing. And what I always say at the end of these is, we will put Tina's contact details in the chat boxes on all of the platforms. So if anybody does want to reach out to Tina and have a chat, have that financial wellbeing chat, have that goal planning, life planning conversation, it's just fascinating when somebody asks you that question, where your mind goes to. Like you say, I'm now thinking, when I actually do want to retire, and I probably have got a figure in mind, but I'll go and share it with Glenn first. But but do you know what I mean? It's only when somebody asks you that question that you then start thinking about it. So,
taking the space to spend time on you, isn't it? Because everyone's busy doing their businesses and working and helping other people. You don't often get a chance to talk about yourself.
No, and it's so important. It's so important. I was talking to a client this morning, and she was saying she just had a really crazy week, and I was like, well, this week, make sure in your default diary you've got time for you. She does a lot of meditation. I was like, do your meditation, go for that walk, maybe not today with the rain, but spending that time for you. It's the same as when you're thinking about your finances, thinking about the future, spending that time and being able to plan. We're big planners, me and you, Tina.
We are indeed, yes.
So it is that plan in place, because if you have a plan in place, it's a living, breathing document.
Yeah.
It's not something to be shoved in the drawer and forgotten about. No. And you won't let them forget.
No, I'm always there.
Which is the best thing. So like I say, I will pop Tina's comments in I will pop Tina's contact details even in the comment boxes on all of the platforms. Please do reach out to her. She's lovely. I've known Tina for a little while now, and every conversation that we have, I come away with a golden nugget. So please do reach out to her. And thank you so much for today, Tina.
Thank you very much.
Loved it. So
thank you so much for inviting me, and sorry my internet glitched.
It's all right. We're used to it. Do not worry. In fact, I don't think I've done one of these in the last few weeks that we haven't had a moment.
Oh, that makes me feel better.
Honestly, it happens. Like I said, the people out there nearly got me singing. So on that note, come back anytime. So thank you. Join me in a couple of weeks when we will be exploring somebody else's business journey. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Bye.